What is art? This is a timeless and contentious question. Art's definition has been debated across eras and disciplines, with multiple theories offering different answers. Imagine walking into an art gallery and seeing a banana duct taped to the wall and learning it sold for $120,000 as a work of art. Would you think, seriously? That is art? What if you eat that banana and tape the peel back to the wall? Is it art now? For ages, people have pondered the meaning of art. Today, let's explore this topic from beauty to emotion to crazy concepts. Let's see how philosophers and artists from Plato to Pollock have answered this question of what is art and why it still matters. Let's start with the ancient times. Let's talk about Plato. Plato, the Greek philosopher, wasn't exactly art's biggest fan. He saw art as imitation, basically a copy of reality. And so, in his eyes, physical things were already imperfect copies of the ideal form. And art, whether a painting, a poem, a play, were merely copies of these imperfect things. So instead of bringing us closer to knowledge, Plato felt that art only pulled us further from the truth. In his view, a painter just copies the surface of things. So a painting was an inferior knockoff of the truth. This was Plato's view of art. It is mere imitation. In the 19th century, people like Leo Tolstoy said, hold on, art is about feeling. Tolstoy argued that art's true power is connected to the heart. He wrote that if a work of art infects you with the artist's emotion, then it is art. With the artist's emotion, then it is art. In other words, art is a bridge of empathy. I laugh or cry or shiver at a painting because I feel what the artist felt. So think of music that gives you chills, or painting like The Scream, which we see on screen, that just like viscerally conveys a certain emotion to you. The value is in the emotionality of the art. After this, we have the idea of art as expression. This is something that has fueled modern artists. For example, we have the painter Jackson Pollock, and he didn't focus on painting pretty landscapes. Instead, what he did was he splattered and drip paint in wild ways to pour out his inner feelings onto canvas. He's believed to have said that he wants to express his feelings rather than illustrate them. So this is a new form of art as expression. So from Van Gogh's swirling stars to Pollock's drip paintings, art became an act of self-expression, a way to say what words can't and make you feel something. This perspective tells us art is essentially emotion you can see or hear. This is a Pollock painting. In 1917, Marcel Duchamp famously submitted a urinal as an artwork titled Fountain. Duchamp's move shocked everyone and flipped the script. Now, art is not just emotional. Art is not just imitational. Art is not just a means of expressing yourself. No. Art is whatever the artist declares it to be. As Duchamp explained, his goal was to take everyday objects and raise them to the dignity of a work of art by the artist's act of choice. So with Duchamp, in his vision of art, art goes beyond these things like expression, emotion, imitation, and just becomes what the artist wills it. So art is anything the artist intended to be art. In other words, if an artist says this is art and puts it in a gallery or in a museum, then it becomes art. This idea pretty much birthed the institutional theory of art. Art is defined by the world system and context, not by special materials or techniques, and so on and so forth. So what is art? After all these perspectives, you might think there is no single answer. And that's kind of the point. Art can be a gorgeous painting that delights the eyes, or a song that moves your heart, or a bold idea that makes you think. The definition of art has expanded over time, from Plato's strict view of imitation, to Tolstoy's emphasis on emotion, to Duchamp, very cheeky, art is in the eye of the beholder. This ongoing conversation matters because it affects how we value creativity and innovation. If we only saw art as pretty pictures, we might dismiss a lot of meaningful forms of human expression. Asking what is art keeps us open-minded. It invites us to find art in new places, like digital work, performance, street graffiti, and yes, even a banana on the wall, and to talk about why it moves and challenges us. In a world that is always changing, we're continually redefining art. And that question, what is art, frustrating as it can be, is really a way of asking, what do we care about? What inspires us? What reflects our humanity? That's why it still matters today. Art isn't just one thing. And that's what makes it so rich and so wonderfully human. In the end, thinking about art isn't about picking one definition. It's about engaging with art ourselves.